Star Trek already answered which character is Enterprise captain when Lower Decks ends. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3 revealed the answer to a big question about the captain of the USS Enterprise. The USS Enterprise briefly returned in Star Trek Lower Decks' explosive series finale, but the flagship of the United Federation of Planets does not arrive in time to save the day. Nor did the new Next Generation show the Enterprise's captain or crew. While this might seem like Star Trek, Lower Decks leaves the question about who is in command of the Enterprise up in the air. The show actually answered that question 2 seasons ago. When a massive and unstable quantum fissure threatens to destroy Star Trek's entire prime universe in Star Trek Lower Decks' finale, Starfleet has no choice but to rely on the USS Cerritos. In the end, the Cerritos crew rallies together and saves the universe by stabilizing the quantum fissure. In the final scenes of the finale, several Starfleet ships are docked at Starbase 80, including the USS Enterprise E. Star Trek Lower Decks never shows the ship's crew, although the show has already made clear that Captain Worf, Michael Dorn, should be in command at this point in the Star Trek timeline. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3 revealed Picard is already an admiral. Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, took over command of the USS Enterprise D in 2363 at the beginning of Star Trek The Next Generation, and remained captain until that ship's destruction in 2371 in Star Trek Generations. Picard then became captain of the USS Enterprise E for Star Trek First Contact, Star Trek Insurrection, and Star Trek Nemesis. Commander William Riker, Jonathan Frakes, became captain of the USS Titan in Nemesis while Picard remained in command of the Enterprise. Picard was promoted to admiral sometime in 2381, as revealed in Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 10, The Stars at Night. In the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3 finale, Beckett Mariner briefly joins the Independent Archaeologists Guild alongside Petra Aberdeen, Georgia King. Mariner soon grows uncomfortable not knowing where Petra's funding is coming from and confronts her. Petra reveals that her benefactor is none other than Admiral Jean-Luc Picard. This confirms that Picard has already become admiral by 2381, meaning that Captain Worf, Michael Dorn, would be in command of the USS Enterprise E by the time of Star Trek Lower Decks series finale in 2382. While very little has been revealed about Captain Worf's tenure in command of the USS Enterprise E, Star Trek Picard Season 3 offered a hint about the ship's ultimate fate. In Picard Season 3, Episode 9, Vox, Commodore Geordi LaForge, LeVar Burton, reveals that he has spent the last 20 years rebuilding the USS Enterprise D. As Admiral Picard and his crew admire their former ship, LaForge points out that they obviously can't use the Enterprise E. Worf promptly responds with, "That was not my fault," implying that the ship was destroyed or somehow lost while Worf was in command. Star Trek Picard Season 3 takes place in 2401, meaning about 20 years have passed since the events of Star Trek Lower Decks' final season. Worf appears to have been working on his own for a while by the time of Picard Season 3 and is a subcontractor for Starfleet Intelligence in 2401. This suggests that Worf's time in command of the Enterprise may have been relatively brief before the event that destroyed the ship. Hopefully, a future Star Trek project will offer more insight into the fate of the Enterprise E or even show Captain Worf in command after Star Trek Lower Decks. In the expansive Star Trek universe, a common point of curiosity is who will command the USS Enterprise at the conclusion of Star Trek Lower Decks. As the series follows junior officers aboard the USS Cerritos, Lower Decks has succeeded in blending humor, nostalgia, and serious storytelling within the confines of Starfleet's well-defined ethos. Despite its comedic angle, the show has sprinkled intriguing clues about what the future holds for its characters and their career trajectories. One question fans ponder is who will take command of the legendary Enterprise, the Federation's flagship, by the time Lower Decks reaches its conclusion. The answer may already have been subtly suggested through Star Trek's broader narrative. Captain Riker and the legacy of the USS Titan. To start exploring the possibilities, it's crucial to consider Captain William Riker. In Star Trek Lower Decks, Riker captains the USS Titan, a ship that has been the focus of many thrilling adventures both in Lower Decks and in other Star Trek properties. Riker's prominence in Lower Decks demonstrates his lasting impact on Starfleet, and his character's sense of humor and leadership style fit well within the tone of Lower Decks. Riker's legacy is deeply tied to the Enterprise as its former first officer aboard the USS Enterprise D and Enterprise E under Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Though Riker eventually assumes command of the USS Titan, his potential future aboard the Enterprise remains a topic of speculation. Lower Decks gives Riker a fresh chance to shine, especially as he takes on a mentorship role to characters like Ensign Boimler, but it's unlikely that he would return as captain of the Enterprise given the importance of Star Trek, Picard positioning him as captain of his own ship. Riker may have moved on from the Enterprise, but his impact will remain part of the ship's legacy. Captain Carol Freeman, the Cerritos Captain's Path. One of the most compelling possibilities involves Captain Carol Freeman, the commanding officer of the USS Cerritos in Lower Decks. Captain Freeman is a well-rounded and experienced officer who has navigated the complexities of leading a less prestigious California-class starship. Despite the Cerritos' lower profile, Freeman consistently proves her leadership skills, as well as her ability to handle the quirky challenges that often arise in Starfleet's lesser-known missions. Freeman's character arc throughout Lower Decks involves grappling with her status in Starfleet and striving to earn greater recognition for her ship and crew. While the Cerritos is central to Lower Decks, there are signs that Freeman's ambitions may extend beyond her current post. In several episodes, she expresses frustration with the lack of prestige associated with her ship and yearns for greater responsibility. If Freeman's arc continues along its current trajectory, it's not far-fetched to imagine her ascending the ranks and eventually being offered command of the Enterprise. Her dedication to Starfleet, coupled with her pragmatic leadership, makes her a strong contender for such a role, especially if Lower Decks sets her on a path toward commanding one of the fleet's most important ships. Ensign Boimler, from Lower Decks to Captain's Chair? Another more unconventional possibility lies in the unlikely journey of Ensign Brad Boimler. As one of the central characters of Lower Decks, Boimler is portrayed as a by-the-book, often awkward officer who dreams of advancing within Starfleet. His career ambitions and obsessive nature about protocol often lead him into comical situations, but beneath that lies a character deeply committed to Starfleet's ideals. Boimler's progression as a character suggests that he has the potential to grow beyond the role of a lower-ranking officer, and Lower Decks has hinted at his trajectory toward greatness. Although it may seem far-fetched for Boimler to rise all the way to captain of the Enterprise, Star Trek has a history of unexpected promotions and rapid career advancements. Characters like James T. Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard ascended to captaincy relatively young, and Boimler could follow a similar path, albeit in his own unique way. Given that Lower Decks is known for subverting traditional Star Trek narratives, Boimler's evolution into a capable leader, despite his current bumbling persona, would align with the show's tone and humor. Moreover, Boimler's temporary service aboard the USS Titan under Captain Riker could serve as valuable training ground for his future. With his boundless enthusiasm for Starfleet, he could develop into a captain worthy of commanding the Enterprise if the series allows him enough growth. While he may not be an obvious choice now, Lower Decks thrives on surprising its audience, and Boimler's journey may have more twists in store. Mariner's anti-authority approach. One cannot discuss Lower Decks without mentioning Beckett Mariner, the rebellious, fiercely independent ensign with a complicated relationship with Starfleet's